Good evening. Much better. Good evening. Welcome to the Emporia Writers Group's Fall 2022 reading. We would like to thank the Special Collections and Archives at Emporia State University for hosting us for our twice a year reading. We love being here. Let's give a quick round of applause. So Monday is Halloween, and our official theme is childhood experiences with fall and Halloween. But if you have not experienced one of our readings before, you will find out that we are quite loose when it comes to the theme. Some people stick to it religiously, and some people, like myself, pretend that we don't know what the theme is.
What's the theme?
Exactly. So, we will have a great mix tonight, but we're going to start off with someone who is in the Halloween spirit. Please give it up for Tracy Million Simmons.
You guys remember what I did over the weekend, right?
Yes.
I wrote this when I got home on Sunday, and then I've spent the week since then trying to cut it down a few words. So, let's see. Can you hear me? Though my mom was an expert seamstress who made most of my clothes, Halloween costumes were rarely custom made in our house. Each child was responsible for fulfilling their own costume vision. Creativity was encouraged. If there was any sewing to be done, it was usually by our own hands. As I rarely had the patience or time for patterns or measuring, most of my efforts held up for no more than a single Halloween, if they held up at all. Duct tape and twist ties were as likely used for construction as actual needle and thread. One year, before I was fully tuned into things like calendars and seasons, the announcement that Halloween was upon us came as a surprise. "Isn't today the costume parade at school?" Mom asked as I sat at the breakfast table shoveling in Cheerios. From Mom, I definitely inherited the gene that would not allow me to skip a Halloween parade. I raced upstairs, dove into the costume box, and used my imagination just as I was trained. In the bottom of the box was a sleeveless silver gold shirt, someone's cast-off Christmas party blouse. The spark was lit, and I rushed to my bedroom to find a pair of metallic pants that had recently arrived in a bag of hand-me-downs. I had cringed upon first sight of those pants, not being a kid who was willing to draw notice by wearing fashionable clothes, and even less willing to draw notice by wearing yesterday's fashionable clothes. I rushed to Mom, who helped me locate a funnel. We fashioned a strap, and I cut a red paper heart to affix to my chest with Scotch tape. All before the school bus arrived. I was the only kid in a cobbled together thrift store costume. I couldn't even claim I had constructed it. Assembled was a more accurate term. The principal leaned down as I passed. "Wizard of Oz?" he asked, and I nodded. "I thought so," he said, straightening up as he gave me a wink that made me stand a little taller. I was awarded most original costume that year, and embarrassed once again to have to answer the question from other kids. "Now, who exactly are you?" I was so original, my peers failed to recognize me. Though Mom did not make our costumes as a matter of habit, she did make me an amazing vampire cape one year by request. And she was as often found digging through the costume box at Halloween as any one of the kids who stayed at our house for the holiday. There was a line. My friends loved to come to my house for Halloween. As a country kid, we didn't have the luxury of door-to-door trick-or-treating. The nearest neighbor was a half-mile down the road. We'd don our costumes from the box, and as an assortment of ghouls and ghosts, hobos and country bumpkins, we'd pile into whatever model of station wagon Mom was driving that year. The Hessman family had a classic candy bowl and encouraged grabbing with the whole fist. At the Dinah's house, we'd gather at the kitchen table as Gertie pulled warm trail mix out of her oven and served enormous caramel-covered apples on squares of wax paper. The Hamilton home was always a quick stop, giving one full-size candy bar per kid. Halloween night with Mom at the wheel might include a stop at the old Amish cemetery or a swing through the nearest abandoned haunted house. Well after dark, Mom would make sure to make an exaggerated stop at a safe intersection so that we could play fire drill, throwing open the doors and whooping and hollering as we ran around the car. Mom also ran and hollered, surprising my friends by sliding into the back seat as if she were just another kid, asking who was going to drive us home. My mom loved all excuses to celebrate, but I always imagined Halloween was her favorite holiday of all. As I grew older and trick-or-treating for candy felt less appropriate, Mom's focus turned to luring costumed little kids to her house for fun. She'd dress up as some variety of witch or warlock, looking wicked but never able to overcome her innate goodness. And our house was a top stop on the list of places to trick-or-treat. Each year the setup grew more elaborate until it became a mini haunted house, complete with cauldron, my mother with a giant stick stirring the pot, and treating kids to her favorite mini musketeer bars and Tootsie Roll Pops. Mom's haunted house routine was at an end by the time my daughter was born. The first year, I fashioned a kitty cat costume from a yard of stretchy red fabric. The following year, we moved back to Kansas, and I invited a couple of friends to bring their kids to help Mom celebrate the holiday she loved so much. My friends were eager to pass on the tradition. One more Halloween at Jean's house. One more dress-up day for the memory book. It didn't happen. Mom got up on Halloween morning and asked for help getting dressed. As the morning blue of October filled the sky, my mother took her last breath. One last treat, I imagined her thinking. My sister's here, by the way. One more trick for them to remember me by. There has never been a Halloween that I was not in costume, sometimes hastily pulled from a box of thrift store finds, and occasionally crafted with weeks or even months of planning and deliberation. As one of the many ways we remember my mom, Halloween has become my family's most celebrated time of year. With my sister, I go to haunted houses and eat candy. With my children, I plan elaborate family costumes. With my husband, some years, we stand on Commercial Street, in costume, passing out candy to parades of little people. My mom always told me that a person was never too old to dress up, and I have passed this message on to my children, as well as twisted the arms of numerous friends over the years. They've all ended up in costume for Halloween, at least a time or two. I carry my mom with me all year long, but especially on Halloween. When I wake up thinking about her final morning and her insistence on dressing up one more time, Dad helped her put on everyday clothes, but I like to imagine that she was thinking about going out in costume and treating herself to a sunrise.
All right, thank you, Tracy. Oh, I kind of like this. Does everybody, I think we should just keep the slideshow.
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah, let's keep this, we like the slideshow. Yes, very cool. All right, our next performer is one half of the podcast if we ever get going. And we actually don't know what the name of it's going to be, although we've thrown a few around.
You have to get my permission.
Yeah, see, that's the problem. Anyway, one half of our podcast maybe somewhere. Stay tuned wherever you get your podcast. But here is Lindsay Bartlett. The dance.
Alright, so this is very short.
You're just tall. You're just tall.
Runs both ways. Okay, so what I'm going to read today doesn't have anything to do with Halloween, but I am going to tell a brief story about Halloween. I wasn't there. I heard this from my mom. But a couple years ago for Halloween, my dad decided to dress up to give out candy to the trick-or-treaters. And it's still there, actually. My graduation gown for my master's degree with my hood and everything, he put on the hood and a welding helmet and stood outside like this. And I think it was a little girl, came up to him and was like, are you a dad? And I just thought it was so cute and funny. And I can just picture my dad being like, yeah, you know. Anyway, so I guess my graduation gown has been put to some sort of use after my master's degree. But anyway, so I'm going to read the first chapter of my book that I've been working on. Its working title is Ada and the Vote. And so I'm going to read the first chapter of it. It's not very long because I'm hoping it'll be like novella length when it's finished. So, this is chapter 1, May 1911. 15-year-old Ada Rumley nestles against a mound of sun-warmed hay at the back of the barn's hayloft. Her knees pulled up almost to her chest are used to prop up the book she is reading. The only sound are the soft whines and nickers from the horses in the stall below. Ada has been here for almost 2 hours, and so far, no one seems to have noticed that she has slipped off to read rather than doing her chores. Having remained undisturbed for this long is unusual, and Ada is sure it won't last much longer. As if on cue, she hears heavy-booted footsteps enter the barn. Ada! Ada! I know you are in here, her brother Hamrick yells, his boots clomping up the stairs to the hayloft. The horses stir with all the noise he is making, shuffling in their stalls. Ada! He calls again, pushing open the trapdoor at the top of the hayloft steps. Hamrick is 3 years younger than Ada, but already about to surpass her in height. He is lean and strong from helping their father in the field almost from the time he was able to walk. He favors their mother with his sandy brown hair that hangs in loose curls over his head, sometimes falling in front of his eyes. Ada, on the other hand, has her father's dark hair that refuses to hold a curl, no matter what method Ada's mother tries. With a sigh, Ada stands up, brushing strands of hay off her muslin dress. There is no use in trying to hide if her brother didn't find her. It would be her paw, and that would mean more trouble than she cares to deal with right now. Seeing her, Hamrick makes a face. We're supposed to feed the chickens and weed the garden, he says rather petulantly. Ma won't like it if she finds all the vegetables have been choked out by weeds. The Ma could weed the garden herself, Ada replies rather sharply, but it is too late to bite back her words. You know Ma is busy with little Imogen, and she is also baking pies to sell in town later this week. You know how much work it is to make a pie. Hamrick, whether intentionally or not, puts more emphasis on you know, as if he is the older and Ada the younger, rather than the other way around. Fine, then he adds, all while you are hiding up here reading another book. Fine, Ada says, brushing past her brother, book clutched tightly to her chest. Hamrick doesn't say anything, but Ada knows he is rolling his eyes at her as she stomps down the stairs from the hayloft. He has been on the receiving end of Ada's tantrums about her place on the farm more than once. The Rumley family farm was started by Ada's grandfather, James Rumley, when he was only 19. At first, the farm was only a few acres, some cows, and a modest home. As James and his family grew, so too did the farm. By the time Peter, the eldest of James's children, and Ada's pa inherited the farm, there was close to 100 acres, and a farmhouse and barn that were the envy of neighbors for miles. Ada pulled furiously at the weeds in the garden, the hem of her dress trailing in the dirt. One of the family's cats strolled up to Ada and proceeded to rub itself against her ankles, its tail swishing as it pushed its nose against Ada's hand as she reached for more weeds. She gave it an absent-minded scratch on the head. The cat mewed at the attention. Pausing, Ada looked at the cat. It was black and white with long white whiskers and yellow eyes, the friendliest of the farm cats. Ada sat down amongst the plants and weeds on the dark soil of the garden, her dress tucked under her knees. She patted her lap, and the cat gingerly curled itself into a ball while she stroked it. Later that evening, Ada slid into her chair at the family dinner table. Laid out across the long wooden table was a roast with potatoes. There was fresh bread and a pitcher of tea. Sitting at the head of the table was Ada's father, Peter, his face tan and lined from so many hours in the Kansas sun. He studies Ada as she takes her seat. Did you get that weeding done? His voice is gruff, but there is a hint of amusement in his eyes. Yes, Pa. She busies herself with scooping some potatoes onto her plate, avoiding both her father and her brother's eyes. And are the chickens fed? Yes, Pa, she says again. Her father doesn't say anything, but it is almost as if he knows she spent most of the afternoon hiding in the barn hayloft, reading rather than doing her assigned chores. Ma appears then carrying Imogen. She places her young daughter in the high chair that was used by all the Rumley children. It was made by James, Ada's grandfather, before Ada's birth. Silence falls over the room as the dishes are passed around and each person takes a helping. Imogen babbles and squeals in her chair next to their mother. How do the fields look, Peter? Their mother feeds Imogen some applesauce from a jar. She squirms with delight. Fine for now, Peter answers. Some rain would do them all good. The ground is awful dry. Ada looks over at her father. He has stopped eating while he talks, fork in midair. His brow is creased and she can tell he is thinking. Her father is always thinking about the farm and worrying if there will be rain or will there be drought, worrying if the crops will survive, how will the family live if it all fails. The weight of the farm is always on her father's shoulders. Sometimes Ada forgets this fact until she sees her father with a creased brow and concerned expression on his face. Uncle Frank says it will rain soon, interjects Hamrick. Pah! Says Pa, waving his fork dismissively. Don't believe anything Frank tells you. You know better than that, boy. Hamrick just shrugs. Pa's brother, Uncle Frank, is known for his stretching of the truth. According to Pa, Frank likes to talk about many things, but doesn't really have anything to say. Personally, Ada likes Uncle Frank because he always has a story to tell and is always laughing. His face isn't always lined with worry, like her father. A couple days later, Ada is balancing a basket full of pies in her lap as they make their way to town. They have left little Imogen with a neighbor woman. Emrick and Pa are out in the field, so it is up to Ada to accompany her mother to town to sell pies. Ada doesn't mind. In fact, she is always excited to make the trip to town. There is always plenty of news and gossip to hear, and if the pies sell well, maybe Ma will buy her a new book. Walnut Valley is a small town on the plains of Kansas, taking its name from the Walnut Creek that runs along the southeast part of town. Ma stops the buggy outside of J.M. Dixon's grocery store, a two-story brick building with a sign in the window advertising the latest vegetables. Ada jumps down from the buggy, still holding the basket of pies. The store is crowded and many customers appear agitated as they pass around copies of the Walnut Valley Breeze newspaper. Now mind your manners and stay out of trouble, you hear? Mother scolds. Ada merely nods before wandering off into the crowds, eager to find out what in the newspaper had stirred up the shoppers. She pretends to eye a selection of hard candy while listening to a group of men, many with folded papers in their hands. Are we ever going to hear the end of this suffrage business? Asked one. Seems to me there are plenty of women who are perfectly fine with the way things are. Why must there always be a few stirring up trouble? He swats at the air with his copy of the newspaper while those around him murmur and nod. It's that Johnston woman, says another man. He removes his hat to scratch an almost bald pate. She moved here with her husband from Ohio and has been causing trouble with this suffrage business ever since. Isn't her husband on the legislature? Yes, that is all part of the problem. She has the ear of too many important folks. If they'll listen to her, replies the first man. With disgust, he tosses down a copy of the Breeze on the counter near where Ada is still pretending to look at the candy. Ada waits until the men move away before snatching up the newspaper. She flips through it quickly until her eyes settle on the brief paragraph that has gotten so many in the store worked up. The paragraph is short, mentioning only that if anyone desires literature or information on the subject of women's suffrage, they should send to the following address. Ada makes a mental note of the address before setting the paper back down on the counter. Her mother is sold out of pies and is motioning for Ada so they can leave. As she helps her mother collect the last of their things, she says, "Would it be all right if I got a new book?" Her mother sighs. "I suppose." She hands Ada a few bills. "Here, run along, meet me at the buggy." "Thanks, Mom," Ada shouts as she darts for the door. Up the dirt street, a couple of blocks, is the small wood building where Fred Kruger sells books and paper goods. The bell rings as Ada pushes open the door. "Well, if it isn't Ada Rumley," exclaims Fred from his place behind the counter. Fred's wife, Lena, is shuffling through a stack of books on his side table. "Nice to see you, Ada. Are you looking for anything in particular?" "Well, not really. Maybe another Dickens," Ada queries. Lena nods. "Remind me which ones you have read." Ada lists them off on her fingers while following Lena to the shelf containing novels of Charles Dickens. Lena pulls a book from the shelf and hands it to Ada. "How about Little Dorrit?" Ada thumbs quickly through the book. "This looks perfect." "Great. Fred will take care of you at the front counter as usual. It was good to see you, Ada." "Good to see you too." Ada heads for the counter, clutching the book to her chest. As she is paying for her book, she notices today's newspaper on the counter and remembers the address she saw earlier. "Hey, Fred," she calls, "would you be willing to mail a letter for me?" In the buggy on the way home from town, empty basket balanced on her lap, Ada asks her mother, "What do you think about women's suffrage?" Her mother doesn't turn to look at Ada. Instead, she focuses on the road and the horses. "Where did you hear about that?" "At the store this morning. A group of men were discussing a newspaper article in the Breeze today." It is a few minutes before her mother responds. For a bit, Ada isn't sure her mother is going to say anything. It will never pass, she says tight-lipped. But what if it does, Ada argues. Wouldn't it be nice if women were able to vote? We already can in local elections, like the school board, responds her mother. Ada sighs in response. She can tell there's no point in continuing this conversation. Thanks.
All right, thank you, Lindsay. Next up is my favorite singer-songwriter from Lisa Moritz and the Neighbors. Here is Lisa Moritz.
Well, and Irene and Ramiro,
Okay, that's what I was thinking, I was like,
all of us, the four of us are the neighbors.
I love it.
Yeah.
When I was in-
Because we are.
Okay, so I have to ask, you know, I'm gonna ask this, so when's the next meeting?
I
Lisa Moritz and the Neighbors.
don't know. It'll happen eventually.
I know, but you know, I'm gonna ask you everything.
Well, I'm not singing tonight. So I don't have anything about Halloween, but I do have a poem that relates to the fall, and I did read it at the William Allen White reading, so some of you have heard it recently. And then I've got just two other poems that I'm going to read as well. I think there's something about the autumn that makes us, or at least me, makes us look back with nostalgia. The other seasons have their own temperament, but to me, autumn has nostalgia and looking back. And so this first poem is Remembering First Love in October. Walking back from the mailbox, I hear October call my name. I stop in the darkness and listen. No sign of neighbors at this hour. No cars rattle brick streets. No birds open their throat in song. Here, in the heart of midnight, in the season when magnolias begin to undress, I look up through almost bare branches to where stars pierce darkness with light so precise it slices through decades of nights and takes me back to the patio of my childhood home, where I lie gazing up at stars. I am 12, the late spring air thick with lilacs. My back rests on concrete still warm from sun. I see Venus and Orion, but do not know their names. I dream of lip gloss, charm bracelets, new blue jeans. I have not yet felt first love's hand unbutton my blouse, nor lain on the hood of his pickup in an open field beneath stars. Felt the cool windshield, motor heat rising up through metal below our bodies. I let memories surround me like a shadow of starlings settling on thin limbs at dusk. I recall the scent of musk on his shirt, the way he opened his mouth when he pulled me against him to kiss. October leads me through every low breath, every measured motion, his arms folding around me like wings, my heart opening wide in song, until I get to the part where I watch from a window the taillights of his truck disappear. And the other two poems that I'm going to read both deal with my father. I've written a lot about him because he was my only parent. And I think both of these kind of have a little bit of nostalgia and looking back as well. This first one was written a long time ago. It's called Papa. I can see you tonight, Papa, miles away in the aging two-story house. It's evening, and you're entering the house for supper, a newspaper curled in your hand. You shed your boots by the door, leaving them behind like the burden of the day. Amidst the aroma of fried liver and onions, you brush clinging bits of sawdust from your shirt, muster a weary smile from the tired creases of your face, and step into the kitchen. I can see you tonight, Papa, swishing your razor vigorously through water in the bathroom sink, then stroking another path along your chin. It's a Saturday in July, and you're preparing for the evening mass at St. Jude's. The old paint-speckled radio on the counter beside you blares that the Cardinals are up 3-1 in the bottom of the 8th, as the smell of Old Spice and damp towels seeps past me into the kitchen. I can see you tonight, Papa. You are breathing an easy sleep on a couch in the darkened living room. It's late, and you've missed the news broadcast you'd intended to watch. A mug of hot tea grows cold on the table beside you, while the television blinks changing shadows on the relaxed curves of your face. The furnace cracks and ticks in the room behind you, measuring away those hours and years. I lived silent in that same house, not knowing how to talk to you. And then this last one, would you mind if I step down and got a little sip of water, or would you mind handing that to me? I guess I haven't talked very much today. I'm getting these frogs in my throat. Thanks, Michelle. So this last poem is also one that deals with the memory of my father, and it's actually a sestina, a foreign poem, and a sestina is a poem that has 6 stanzas, 6 lines each, and the last word of each line from the first stanza are repeated in a given order in each of the remaining stanzas, and then there's a 3-line tercet at the end that incorporates all of those words. So if you hear certain words a lot, it's only because this is a sestina. And so it's called Still Running, a sestina for my father. Sitting now at a cafe near the tracks, I remember how it would begin suddenly. A single step onto the gravel driveway of the Pollen House, and without a word, we would begin to run, racing home from church. I was fast, a train of yellow skirt with eyelet ruffle, and my father sprinting in his green leisure suit and striped tie, a father transformed, an emerald Camaro remembering how to make all its parts hum, pumping unstrained, his arms and legs like an engine. In this race, we stepped beyond ourselves and tunneled through the tracks that run from youth to age and back again. There was no housing the momentum within us. As we approached the banker's house at the final corner before reaching home, my father slowed his pace, braking. He let me run past. I took the lead. He must have remembered how it was to be young and understood the need to step outside of who we are now, to ride the train and follow the tracks before us, their silver lines training our eyes to find a station ahead, a station that sits like an old house, its paint peeling, roof sagging, its steps uneven and splintered, the frame leaning like a grandfather settling into his recliner, remembering dreams that slowed or stopped, abandoned cars that no longer run. Beyond this cafe window, the sidewalk runs its path beyond my vision. I hear a train passing, call out its lonesome departure. I hear a passing train call out its lonesome departure, and I remember walking train tracks when I was 9 miles from my house with my friend Kim, following the Santa Fe and sang Our Fathers as we navigated the section of track over the creek, stepping faster, hearing the rush of water below, quickening our steps across square wooden ties, our feet like mallets on a marimba, running a tune that could carry us across and then back again to our fathers or our mothers who waited at home with supper ready, who trained us to listen for the Angelus bells as a sign to return to our houses, a sign the day was done. Coming back, we'd pick up stones, something to remember. Over stones and wooden ties, the trains keep coming. I keep listening. I remember the strong line of my father's back, the low idle of his voice, his boots stepping across the threshold. He is housed in my heart like cargo, and I am still running.
Thank you, Lisa. Our next performer, all I'm going to say about him is that it's always wonderful. I want to raise this because he's going to need this raised. No, I don't have to leave him. It's always wonderful when you can find friends who are into all of the same nerdy things that you are into, and that is one of the things that makes this next performer so cool. Please welcome Carrie Moyer.
So I'm too did not have I'm not good at taking assignments. I was going to read something from Boyhood Things from Dirt Road, but then I thought nah. So I just thought some new stuff. So I had this series of dream poems that I wrote that are literally based in dreams. I had the dream, woke up literally before I was even washed to sleep from I wrote stuff down, and I did shade them a bit. But there's a dream number one, dream number two, and so on. So this is dream number one. I'm walking down the gravel drive. Whoppy dog is by my side, tongue wagging. My bare feet are getting stuck by cuckleburs. Grandpa waves from his yellow tractor. I limp, wave back. Grandma is on the porch, saying something I can't make out. She's pale, and I remember that they are long dead. Grief and fear, grief and fear. I wake, check my feet for thorns. That's dream number one. This is dream number two. I punch at the red monster with its vicious grin, and I can't hurt it. My fists land like hammers, but I can't beat it back, and it grows, blocks out light, teeth ready to bite me in half, but I fight while staring into black swirling eyes, black swirling eyes. This dream is fear with furious fists. That's dream number two. This is dream number three. It stretches out, this blue, this line far from where I wade, waist deep, warm, wanting something distant, my feet in sand, hands reaching, my teeth clenched, tides turning to waves, cresting over my face, burning my eyes, salt and time, this ocean is a dream. And dream number four. My son is looking at me with his bright blue eyes. Green trees are swaying in a soft summer breeze. His hands hold a toy, broken long ago. Weary in front of our old home, he is smiling warmly. Love and time, love and time. This dream is an echo of love and time. So this is one I wrote, and this is inspiration for like if I'm lucky enough to get a new book someday. This is the title. It's called The Salt We Share. My son sits away from us, talking with friends, smiling, with the jawline of a man, and I think he is a sea apart from us, with depths, fathoms we cannot know. His mother and I receding like an ebb tide along our son's expanding shoreline, watching life's waves wash away the sand and foam of youth, while we hope the salt we share remains. I write short poems so I can read a lot of them. This is called Expired Coupon. Or Expired, I'm sorry. It's called Expired. It's about my wife lost a sister, and I was with her. And it was a moment, a snapshot. Expired. My wife stands above the stove, sobs about her dead sister, gone too soon, how they can't talk when she needs. I'm silent, useless, as an expired coupon stuck to a refrigerator door. So this is an adventure poem about being we were in a town, Curtis and Kevin, I forget where we were. It was a place we were. There was coffee. So, what I call it? Coffee after jazz. We sit with our coffee and tea. Kevin talks jazz about not playing out too soon, not getting ahead of the bass, making sure the sax player is the star, and my cup is empty. My mind, like brushes on the snare, sticks in time with thick bass strings, ascending notes from tarnished brass, a feeling in search of a sound. A slow sip. So this is like sometimes I just realize, life is hell, and we have to just get through it. And sometimes something as simple as a glass of tea makes it worthwhile, right? Sunday finds me meandering into my garage, moving a few things from one spot to another, sipping sweet iced tea and thinking that tomorrow is Monday, and work waits like always, like days spent in this familiar hamster wheel life. But for now, I drink my sweet iced tea, one slow sip at a time. I don't know what time I start. The seeds I sow, maybe this one. This is what I think about, like, the way things could have gone with my life and how I grew up and everything, and how it's been a process of finding peace and hope and decency, I guess, when there's a part of you that isn't all those things. So the seeds I sow. The seeds I sow were born in blood, hard times, and now they sprout love from their thick seed coats, sending wild green vines up towards softer blue skies, the warming sun, far from that dead garden I tried to grow in the dark before kind rains fell on my harvest of hope. That's it.
As we do these, I experiment with different ways to introduce people. And tonight I'm experimenting with the non-biography introduction, because we all have impressive biographies, at least two Kansas notable authors in the room. So I'm just going for other neat things about people. And this next person, I was trying to think of the thing that the thing that strikes me when I think about Deb, and I think what strikes me most is when I first met Deb. I met her as John's mom, and John is such a cool person and always just makes you feel so good when you're around him. And so I want to introduce John's mom, Deb Ursing.
That's who I've been for a long time. This is John's mom. And that's okay, because John is pretty cool. Can I just turn that down, or do I need to? I think it has to stay on.
Do you need it a little lower?
What do you think?
Sorry,
Is that
should've
okay?
dropped it down.
Maybe it's okay. I think it's okay. Okay. Okay, well, most of you that were at Radius know that I was not ready for this because I forgot about it. So I ran home after I picked up Jovi, and I decided to do a couple of poems and then a short story that some of you have heard on another album, or close to album. The first one is Trickster. He is slick and suave, cool and cunning, reels you in with charm and wit, charisma like a magnet. People twitter about him like hummingbirds on jam. He convinces you he's needed. You are enthralled, hypnotized into believing you are the are faulty, not whole, unworthy. You are nothing. You are less than nothing. You are trapped, tainted, tricked into believing you need the rush of worldly pleasure, the drug of greed. Don't sell your soul. He's the trickster, you see.
Will you get my ex-husband?
She meant Satan, she was talking about Satan. Right? Was that right? That's right.
Maybe. This one is death. Silently, stealthily, it creeps like smoke, fog, or plague, claiming innocence, youth, life, no warning, no regret or apology, just absolute darkness, a light switched off. The steady pumping of a heart stops. One last shallow breath, and a future is snuffed out. No marriage or children or lover's embrace. Sorry. No laughter or songs, moments of grace. What do we make of a life cut short? God goes forward. The memories to be made, mountains to climb, worlds to explore, all gone. In a moment, a whisper, it claims plans, hopes, dreams of one loved, adored, cherished, a formidable foe, this thief called death. I could read that enough. I'm sorry, we should be doing that. This is much more Halloween-y. Scarecrow, some of you've heard this one before. It happened when my brother and I decided to take a shortcut through the cornfield next to Grandma's farm. We had done it hundreds of times in the daylight. It was getting late and we were tired and hungry. We could almost smell Grandma's fried chicken wafting on the breeze. Come on, Laney, it's a lot faster and I'm hungry. My brother pulled me into the tall stalks. I don't wanna, it's itchy and too tall. I can't tell where I'm going. I pulled back. Joe smiled. Come on, I'll protect you. There's nothing to be afraid of. He charged ahead. The corn stalks were a foot or two above my head, and I had to run to keep up. The shadows quickly became ominous, and I did my best to keep Joe close. Joe, stop! I grabbed for his hand. We're lost. I could barely squeak. We had been running, and my heart pounded wildly in my chest, partly due to the exertion, but mostly it was the fear that was creeping up my spine. Joe shook his head. We're okay, Laney. I just got a little turned around. Stay close. I got this. I tried to keep up. I wanted to believe that he knew where we were, but I could hardly tell my right foot from my left. Joe shrieked and stopped dead. I slammed into his back. Damn incarnation. It's just an old scarecrow, Laney. It liked to scare the bejesus out of me. I was sobbing and laughing at the same time. I rarely saw Joe shook up, and my heart was pounding in my ears. Joe, let's go. This is creepy. I pulled on his sleeve. Let's just get out of here. Joe smiled. It's a good thing we ran into our friend here, because now I know where we are. The Scarecrow is on the east side of the field, so we just have to go straight north to get to Grandma's road. Let's go. I grasped the tail of his jacket and followed him. The noises of the night seemed to surround us and come closer. The hair stood up on the back of my neck, and I felt eyes on us. Joe, run! Something's following us. I sped past him, lungs bursting and fear moving my feet. I just kept running. I slowed down. I couldn't hear Joe's footsteps behind me. Joe, where are you? My tears clouded my vision, and suddenly a weary apparition was standing in front of me. His beady eyes and blood-red smile mocked me, and I turned and crashed into Joe. Joe, it's a Scarecrow. It's following us. We can't go that way. Stop, Lainey, it's okay. We just got separated for a minute. He held me close and rubbed my back until I calmed down enough to tell him about the Scarecrow. These shadows can make us see things, Lainey. It's just your imagination playing tricks on you. I'm not going to let anything happen to you. He held my hand and led me out of the cornfield. There was Grandma's road. I started crying again and ran down the road and up on Grandma's porch. Grandma came out with her hands on her hips, looked over my head and my head buried in her shoulder. What's all this, Joe? Supper's ready and you should have been home half an hour ago. We told Grandma our story, and after my belly was full and we were in the warm glow of Grandma's kitchen, it was a lot easier to believe that I imagined the Scarecrow. 2 days after, Grandma and I saw the farmer that owned the field and the hardware store in town. Grandma told him about our scare. Really? Now that's an odd thing, because that Scarecrow went missing. We can't find hide nor hair of him. I suppose some pranksters took him off. Then he turned and looked at me, blinking his beady eyes and blushed with a smile.
All right, thank you, Deb. Our next performer, here's what I'm going to say about her. She has one of the biggest hearts that I know, and I have the privilege of being with her in 2 writing groups, the Emporia Writers Group, and also Write Stuff in Topeka, where she is one of the big wigs. So here is my friend Gina Mans.
As you can see, I'm one of the people that, yeah, both the kids, I understood the assignment. And I've got 2 short poems. I have one that's free verse, and I have one that is a pen too. Halloween dreams. What shall we do tonight? It's Halloween night, said one monster to the other. I have a few ideas, said the second. We can slide through the night, slip beneath the shadows, breathe the fog, bring the night, ride the clouds, run the wind, chant a charm, chase a spell, giggle at a gaggle of ghosts, goose a gargoyle or 2, wrestle a wraith, wink at a will-o'-the-wisp, bother a banshee, boggle a bugaboo, heckle a hag, harass a harpy, sing with the shade, shimmy with the spook, menace many monsters, mingle with mermaids, ooh, dine with the dead, dance with demons, nuzzle a nightmare, nag a nymph, next the vampires, ooh, vandalize a vapor, follow a fairy, frazzle a few phantoms, aggravate some antimatter and antagonize a bunch of apparitions. But we only have one night for all this fun. Happy Halloween. 'Tis Halloween. Children play and run the streets as falling leaves set the scene and costumes made from old sheets on this night of Halloween. As falling leaves dress the scene, children roam in search of candy. On this night of Halloween, keep your tricks and your treats handy. Children roam in search of candy when giggles and shrieks echo in the night. Keep your tricks and treats handy when little ones appear in pockets of porch light. When giggles and shrieks echo through the night, ghouls, ghosts, and superheroes roam, and little ones appear in pockets of porch light, later to return safely home. Ghosts, ghouls, and superheroes roam out past their time to sleep, later returning safely home, and into soft beds children creep. Up past the time to sleep, as wraiths rise from an earthly tomb, and into dreams they creep, passing through the glowing gloom. When wraiths rise from an earthly tomb, with banshee screams and gargoyle moans, pass through the glowing gloom to gather in the catacombs. Fallen leaves set the scene when monsters dance and children scream. On this night of Halloween, 'tis but a living dream.
All right. Next is someone who I would describe as one of the most humble writers out there. She will not toot her own horn, so I am happy to do so. So I need to let you know that just recently, and I think this is when, Carrie, when your poem happened, we were at Washburn University for the for the Kansas Notable Book Awards, and the first gentleman of the state of Kansas had the privilege, of putting a medal around the neck of a Kansas notable poet, and here she is, Brenda White.
I'm a descendant of the Keeler people. Okay. So I tried to find things that were Halloween related or fall, and these are what I came up with. The first one is called Fall Memory. At dusk in the timber, I head back to the house with the black cat who followed me to the creek. There are coyotes and owls I don't see, so I look back, make sure he is close, that we both return home. Sunlight dips the skyline, darkens timber, and scratching sounds nearby make me jerk on the well-worn path. But it is only a possum climbing between trees who freezes when our eyes connect, his smile revealing pointed teeth. Come on, I call to the cat, barely visible in the dark, who meows and scampers up. The house is still some distance. Then movement draws my sight. Behind us, the black silhouette of an owl, wingspan nearly wide as the creek, glides above the water in silence and floats away from us. And the next two I'm going to read are vampire poems. The first one is called To Nikki, Beloved of the Vampire that Stopped. They cut off your hands when you went mad, still lilies in a velvet box, the key in Armand's pocket. And what a sight you must have been once released, raving, starved, a fiend embracing prey with leaking stumps. And when Armand returned those precious flowers, did he hand you the key first? Ah, the mystery of dark gifts and insatiable appetites. Yet no mystery you chose fire in the hands attached. To hell with light, and for the love of hell, the witch's place, and your dance of flaming frock coat, a strange phoenix finally at rest. Now, the violin you sobbed upon with petals sharp as claws waits in your dressing room, and needs only to be placed in a velvet box. They will send it to Lestat then, who, for love's sake, once incised his name across your throat. Sorry, y'all, I thought I had it.
No pressure.
There we go. Ah, yes. This one is called Invitation. An open window at the writing workshop invites me to heft myself to its lip, free fall into the black outside, away from public shame of my poem, and lie, 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 lie. When suddenly a vampire fits his face in that space of my temptation, sends his laugh into the room and is gone in a flash of lace, gold hair, and moldy velvet, fallen like the moon. Quickly, the dead are resurrected by the un. Reason startles round the room, takes a few deep breaths to settle in the chairs, and lively we return to lie. My heart fandangos in my chest. I can't feel for the rest, but fear sparks stars beneath my skin. Imaginary fiends exist. We can be mortally kissed, aside from images, pictures, objective correlatives, and other such intellectual myth, whether we invite spirit in or no.
All right, I know that Michelle has a hot date, but we're almost done here. Or we did get started just a few minutes late, so hopefully you can bear with us. Our next performer is someone who I believe writes poems closest to the way I would write them, and that's me. I'm just going to read one tonight. This one's called A Beautiful Broken World. And I did not follow the assignment, sorry. Sometimes the most broken are the strongest, brightest lights, most empathetic, compassionate. I'm thankful for those who hurt us, for those who make us feel lonely, unwelcome, unloved, for those who steal from us, for those who stab us in the back, for those who said ugly things, for so-called friends who said, "You'll never make it, you're stuck, abandon your dreams." I'm thankful because broken people are making a beautiful world. All right, our last performer, carrying on with the theme of humble people. Wow, Kevin has accomplished so much. He is a musician, a photographer, you may have noticed, And, oh yeah, he was once Poet Laureate of Kansas. Please give it up for Kevin Ravis.
He's one heck of a guy.
Curtis, and thanks for having us here today. This first one has a couple parts that I'm going to read. One part is hospital time, and the second part is the moon, a traditional and a Brothers Grimm tale. So, in the theme, the moon. 1. Don't wait until you're under. Don't wait until they've dressed you in a gown with a slit along your spine. Don't wait. They'll white wall you, plastic glove you, breathe into you from a plastic mask, metal tank. They'll fill your arms, your chest with tubes, use long spent see-through tubes on you, never roots, never stems, never fingertips on your chest nor lips. That cold touch of coffin sides holds beneath every wheel and every rail. And so there's the second part, the Brothers Grimm thing. Everlasting day, say goodbye tonight. We've cut and sectioned our moon and tied its pieces to our ceilings, put the pale, big-bellied man on a rack and split him, carted his parts in every separate direction. When we each keep a piece of him, he dims, and we wonder why we can't keep from staring deep into our TVs. We're spot welding, searching for another star. No, we're cooking our eyes with filament, lit wire. If you're bored and are looking for folk tales, the moon's pretty good. Check it out. It turned into a poem for me. Going the other way when it comes to tales, this one is a poem about Pitch Black, a film from 2000 starring Vin Diesel.
Yes.
So Grimm's to Vin Diesel. Pitch Black. On that planet, it's always day, except during eclipse when the moon covers the suns and these giant termite creatures rise from the soil and eat everything, including you. If you don't run, pray to the moon. And so we've just passed midterms in the semester. And so I've got to have a midterm poem, and this is one. It ends with some Halloween-like darkness at the end. So it fits both categories of time and place. An exam. I watch for that fire the eye might be kindling when a student looks up and knows pencils perpendicular to the paper or at its slant, pencils raised, a thought at work, then waking through the wood and into the lead. The answers are somewhere above us, rising somewhere near the surface of the faces of the honeycombed fluorescent lights. We're traveling through the winding tunnels of the brain, arriving now in a synapse flash, now jotted on college-ruled paper, something I will read later, as the crows glide by out the window, diving sometimes, landing and congregating, picking at something struggling in the road.
Thank you, Kevin. Real quick before we go, I would like to thank Special Collections and Archives. Rebecca sets this up for us. She's not here with us this evening, but she has been a wonderful supporter of the Emporia Writers Group. Yes, and we want to thank Emporia State University for hosting us. There are a lot of ESU alums in this room tonight. I would say the vast majority here are ESU alums. So we love being here, and we love being able to share words here at our alma mater. Quickly, I wanted to tell you about the Emporia Writers Group. Actually, I want you to know about it. But I'm going to turn this over to Lindsay Bartlett, because we would love anybody who has any interest in writing. Come join us, whether you're a writer, if you're a writer groupie like Michelle Opinionated Zumber. Yeah. Facebook took her middle name away, but we never will. Yes. Here's Lindsay.
Hello, thank you all for coming out tonight. So, regarding the Emporia Writers Group, we have sort of switched up our schedule and conferring with the local brain trust of the Emporia Writers Group, which is Tracy Lillian Simmons and Cheryl Unruh, who cannot be here tonight. We have started doing write-ins, and these are here in the ESU library. I usually reserve 109D, which is a study room just outside, and we do the write-ins on the 1st, 3rd, and 5th, if there is one, Wednesdays of the month, and then on the 2nd and 4th, making sure I remember my numbers, the 2nd and 4th Wednesday is when we just meet at Radius for food, drink, and social time. So we would be happy to see you at either of those, and just come out and have fun and meet some creative folk like us. We're fun, I promise.
Yes.
Thank you all for coming.